"Why are you following me?" the girl asked, her voice sharp but shaking. She clutched her tray tighter as she walked faster down the hallway. The boy smirked behind her, close now. "Just wondering how someone like you got into this school." A few kids nearby looked over, but no one said a word. She kept walking, her steps quick and quiet. Her name was Zuri, and she had learned to keep her head down. It didn't help much. "You think you're special or something?" the boy sneered. His voice echoed, bouncing off the lockers. She stopped, not because she wanted to, but because her locker was right there. She opened it slowly, pretending he wasn't breathing down her neck. "You're in the wrong place, girl," he said, almost whispering but loud enough for others to hear. "This school wasn't built for people like you." Zuri didn't answer. She knew his name, Blake, football captain. Everyone laughed at his jokes, even when they weren't funny, especially when they were mean. She placed her books inside her locker. Her fingers trembled, but she didn't let them see. She had promised herself, no more tears at school. Blake leaned in, smirking. "What? No comeback? Thought you people were always loud?" The hallway grew quiet. Eyes were watching now. Phones were out, some recording, some pretending not to. Zuri turned around. Her voice was calm. "I'm not here to entertain you." Blake grinned wider, not expecting that. He raised his voice. "What are you even doing here? You think just because some rich white family picked you up, you're better than us?" Zuri's face didn't change, but her heart pounded. If only he knew. Not that it would matter to someone like him. A teacher passed by, glanced once, and kept walking. Didn't stop, didn't ask. Blake laughed. "Figures. Guess you know how to make yourself invisible when it counts." The crowd chuckled, and she stood there all alone, with nothing but her silence to hold her up. He stepped closer, too close. "Tell me something, princess," he hissed. "Did they teach you how to be white? Or are you still just playing dress up?" That one cut deep, deeper than he'd ever know. Zuri's chest rose, fell. She looked at him. "You have no idea who I am." He rolled his eyes, mocking. "Then tell me, who are you supposed to be, huh? Some lost charity case?" The words hit like bricks, but she didn't flinch. She was used to this dance, the sneers, the whispers, the way teachers only heard certain voices. Suddenly, Blake reached for her backpack. "Let's see what kind of princess you really are." Zuri stepped back fast, gripping the strap. "Don't touch me." "Or what?" He laughed, grabbing the bottom of it. That's when the voice came, deep, calm, cold as stone. "Take your hands off my daughter." The hallway froze. Even Blake stopped breathing. All eyes turned. A tall man stood at the far end of the hall. Bald head, black jacket, boots heavy on the ground. His voice needed no second repeat. He walked forward slowly, each step louder than the last. It was Vin Diesel. No one spoke. Not the teachers, not the students, not even Blake. Zuri didn't say anything either. She just stepped away from Blake, calm now, strong. She walked toward the man who raised her, the man who taught her about courage, not anger, and she said, only loud enough for Blake to hear, "Told you, you had no idea who I am." The silence was louder than anything Blake had ever heard, and suddenly all his laughter sounded very small. Zuri didn't cry, not in front of them, not in that hallway where the air still held Blake's ugly words. She walked beside Vin Diesel like the earth under her feet had finally remembered her name, but inside her chest, the pressure was building. Her fingers gripped the straps of her backpack like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. They didn't speak right away. Vin placed one strong hand on her back, steady and warm. She felt safe but also ashamed. She hated that it took his presence for people to respect her. She hated that without him, her voice didn't matter. They stepped outside. The school building stood tall behind them, all brick and windows, clean. On the outside, rotting on the inside, she could still hear the silence in the hallway. It followed her like a stain. Vin finally spoke, soft and low. "You okay?" Zuri nodded, then shook her head. "I didn't want it to happen like that," she whispered. He didn't ask what she meant. He already knew. "You think I can't fight my own battles," she said, her voice trembling, "but you don't know what it's like in there. Every day I have to smile like I don't hear what they say. Every day, I sit alone like I chose it. I didn't want them to find out about you. I wanted to earn respect and not borrow it." Vin stayed quiet. He knew the weight of silence. He'd lived in it too. Zuri sat on the bench near the flagpole, the sun casting long shadows on the schoolyard. She looked out at the parking lot, watching parents pick up kids like nothing had happened, like the world hadn't just cracked open. "I know who I am," she said, "but sometimes I feel like I have to prove it every morning. Prove that I'm not angry, that I'm not dangerous, that I'm not less." Vin sat beside her. He didn't interrupt. "People think because I live in a big house and my dad is famous I've got it easy, but that just makes them hate me more." She glanced at him, then away. "You gave me everything, Dad, but I still walk into rooms where no one sees me." She remembered being 8, sitting beside him on the couch watching old racing videos. He'd point at the screen and say things like, "Power without control is nothing." Back then, she thought he was just talking about cars. Now she knew. He meant her. She was raised to be strong but kind, brave but wise. She was taught that silence could be louder than screaming, but at school, silence just meant she was ignored. She remembered her mom, too, Vin's partner, gone now, but her voice still alive in Zuri's heart. When they don't understand. You, Zuri, don't get smaller. Make them look again. Zuri had tried. Every test she passed, every question she raised her hand to answer, every kind smile she gave to people who gave her nothing back, but it never seemed enough. Blake didn't care about her grades or her heart, or the way she helped clean up after lunch when no one asked. He saw only one thing, her skin, her silence, and he thought that meant weakness. She looked at her father. Why does it feel like I'm fighting something no one else can see? Vin looked at her with those serious eyes. He didn't soften them. He let her see the weight in them, the truth. Because you are, he said, and you're still standing. She leaned into him just a little, not enough to cry, just enough to breathe. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. It was from her adoption day. She was 5, wearing a yellow dress and a crown made of paper. Her smile was wide, her hands holding tight to both Vin and her mom. You remember what you told me that day? He asked. Zuri smiled a little. I said, now I'm yours forever. Vin nodded. And I said, you don't ever have to earn that. Tears threatened her eyes, but she blinked them back. She had cried too many times alone. This moment was different. She pulled out her own phone, opened the camera app, and looked into the screen. She studied her face. Her curls framed her forehead. Her eyes held fire. Her skin was rich and deep and real. Don't get to erase me, she said quietly. Vin smiled. Not unless you let them. Zuri looked back toward the school. She thought about Blake's face when Vin appeared. The way the hallway had gone still. She wasn't proud of the fear in their eyes. But she wasn't sorry either. Because now they had to see her. Not the girl they whispered about, not the charity case, not the background. They had to see the daughter of someone who wouldn't bend. And a girl who never needed saving to begin with. Zuri stood up, tall and steady. Her backpack felt lighter now. I'm going back in tomorrow, she said. And I'm not hiding anything anymore. Vin stood beside her. That's my girl. In that moment, beneath the sun and silence and slow wind, Zuri knew the truth. He wasn't fighting for fame, or pity, or revenge. He was fighting to be seen. And that kind of fight was always worth it. Next morning, Zuri walked through the school doors alone. Heads turned. Whispers followed her like smoke. Every step felt heavier than the last, but she didn't stop. Her chin was up, her face calm. She made it 10 steps into the hallway before the first voice hit. Well, look who decided to show up, someone muttered. Zuri didn't turn. She knew Blake's voice by now. This time it wasn't just him. A few others were with him. Football jerseys, laughing faces, phones ready again. Bet Daddy dropped her off in the Batmobile. Another boy snickered. Hollywood royalty, huh? Zuri's heart thumped. Not from fear, but anger. He had humiliated her yesterday, and now they wanted more. He walked to her locker, opened it slowly. Blake stepped closer, his voice fake sweet. Where's your bodyguard today? He asked. Do famous people only show up for the camera? Zuri didn't answer. Look, I don't care who your dad is, he said, smile curling. You can buy your way into this school. You don't belong here. The hallway froze again, just like yesterday. But this time, no Vin Diesel, no rescue, just Zuri. She turned. Her voice was steady. I was adopted when I was 5. I've been working twice as hard ever since. Blake rolled his eyes. Hard work? Please. You people don't know what that means. A teacher passed again. Heard everything. Kept walking. Zuri looked around. Kids stared at her like she was a movie playing out in real life. Not a soul stepped in. You think you scare me? Zuri asked. You're just loud. That's all you are. That hit something. Blake's smile dropped for a second. You think you're better than everyone now? Because your daddy's rich? Zuri stepped forward, closer than before. I think I've survived more than you ever will, she said quietly. The bell rang. Students scattered, but the tension stayed thick in the air. By lunch it got worse. She walked into the cafeteria and everything felt colder. No seat was free. Kids who'd smiled at her last week now turned their trays. Tables shifted like she was a disease. Zuri found a chair in the corner. Alone. Again. She pulled out her lunch, pretending it didn't sting. Then a loud voice from across the room. Yo, Blake, she's here! One of the football boys shouted, laughing. Blake stood, picked up his tray, and walked over. He slammed his tray down on her table. This your throne, princess? Zuri looked at him, said nothing. Tell me, he said louder, for the whole room. Does Vin Diesel wipe your tears at home too? Or just drive you around when you're sad? The lunchroom erupted in laughter. Zuri's face burned, but she didn't cry. Not here, not in front of them. A girl from the cheer squad leaned over. We just don't want drama, Zuri. Maybe don't come to lunch for a few days, okay? Zuri stared at her. So it's easier if I disappear, right? The girl blinked, caught off guard. It's not like that, it's just, things are tense now. Tense for who? Zuri asked, her voice rising just enough. For the people watching it happen or the one it's happening to? The girl backed away. Blake smirked again. Careful, he said. You're starting to sound angry. We all know what that means. That was it. Zuri stood. You want me to be quiet. You want me to disappear, but I'm not going anywhere. Blake stepped forward. Or what? Or you'll have to live with the fact that no matter how hard you try, you'll never make me feel small enough to fit into your comfort zone. The room was silent. Then he knocked her tray off the table. It hit the floor hard. Food scattered everywhere. Laughter rose again and a few kids pulled out their phones. Recording. Always recording. Zuri didn't move. She didn't yell. She didn't fight back. She just stared at him. And in that stare, Blake saw something he didn't expect. Strength. Calm. Something he couldn't shake. The lunchroom door opened. The principal walked in. Finally, she looked at the scene. The food. The phones. The silence. Then at Zuri. What's going on here? The principal asked. Blake spoke first, putting on his innocent voice. Zuri was causing trouble again. I was just trying to get her to calm down. Zuri looked at the principal. Hope flickered in her chest, but the principal folded her arms and sighed. Zuri, this is becoming a pattern. Maybe it's time we call your guardian and have a serious talk. The breath left her lungs. You're blaming me? She said, stunned. He's been harassing me for days. The principal looked uncomfortable. We've had no written complaints. Because every time I speak up, no one listens. The woman's voice stayed cold. Let's not make this a bigger issue than it has to be. Zuri stared at her. It already is. Then the security officer appeared beside them. Quiet, firm. We've had a complaint. You need to come with me to the office. Zuri blinked. Me? The officer didn't meet her eyes, just motioned. She walked through that cafeteria with 20 eyes burning into her back. Some sorry, most silent, all watching. And Blake? He sat down at her table, picked up his drink, took a sip like nothing had happened. And in that moment, Zuri felt what every kid feels when the system decides you're the problem. She hadn't yelled. She hadn't touched anyone, but she was the one being walked away. And no one, not a single voice called it out. That walk down the hallway felt longer than ever. The security guard didn't say a word. When she sat in the main office, she finally whispered something. Do you even know why you brought me here? He looked at her for the first time. And that's when her phone buzzed. A text. One word. Coming. It was her dad. And this time she wasn't ashamed of needing him. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not walk away quietly. 10 minutes later, the front doors of the school opened, and everything changed. Not slowly. Like thunder. Vin Diesel didn't stroll in. He marched. Black shirt. Heavy boots. No bodyguards. Just him. Furious. Focused. Every hallway fell into silence as he passed. Phones dropped, whispers faded, teachers froze mid-step. He didn't need to say who he was. His presence said everything. Zuri sat alone in the principal's office, still in the same chair. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying anymore. She heard the door open behind her. She didn't turn. She already knew. He stepped in, looked at her, then at the administrators. Who touched my daughter? The room went still. The principal stood up too fast, nervous. She gave a quick, forced smile. Mr. Diesel, sir, this is a misunderstanding. We were just trying to sort out. You called security on her? His voice was low, calm, but every word slammed like a hammer. Well, there were reports she was causing tension in the cafeteria. You mean the tension caused by the kid who's been bullying her for days? The vice principal stepped in now, voice shaking. We didn't have the full context. Vin looked at Zuri. She stood, quiet, dignified. I didn't do anything wrong, she said, barely a whisper. They didn't even ask. He looked back at the staff. So none of you thought to call me before treating her like a threat? One of the secretaries opened her mouth, closed it again. Then came a knock. Blake's parents entered. Blake was with them, still in his jersey, still smirking, until he saw who stood behind Zuri. His smirk shattered. His mother gasped. Wait, is that? Vin stepped forward. That's my daughter, he said clearly. Adopted, raised, protected, loved. You got a problem with that? Blake's dad tried to smooth it over. Mr. Diesel, I'm sure this is just kids being kids. No, this is kids repeating what they hear. At home. No one breathed. Zuri looked at Blake. He didn't say a word now. You embarrassed her, Vin said. You shoved her, mocked her, recorded her, and every adult here let it happen. The principal finally sat down. Her voice cracked. Sorry, we didn't know. Ben raised his hand. Stop right there. He pulled out his phone, tapped a video, pressed play. The screen showed the cafeteria, Blake knocking the tray, laughing, the teacher walking by, everything. He didn't get this from the school. He got it from the internet. It was already out there, millions of views, comments flooding in. Zuri looked at him surprised. I saw it last night, he said gently. I didn't sleep, I flew back at sunrise. Blake's mom stepped forward now desperate. He didn't mean it, he didn't know who she was. Vin turned slowly, his eyes locked with hers. So it would have been fine if she wasn't. Mine? The words hit like a slap. She backed up. No, I just mean, we had no idea. Exactly. You had no idea who she was, and you treated her like nothing, like she didn't matter. He turned to Blake. You wanted to break her down. You used every tool you had. Racism, jealousy, crowd pressure. And still, she stood taller than you. Blake's face was pale now. Zuri said nothing. She didn't need to. Her father was saying everything she had tried to say with her silence. This, school failed her, Ben said. You failed her, the principal stuttered. We can offer counseling, a formal apology. Ben shook his head. She doesn't need an apology. She needs justice. She needs protection. And from now on, it's both. He walked toward the door, then stopped, turned around one last time. Do better. Not because she's my daughter, but because next time, the world might not be watching. Then he looked at Zuri. Ready? She nodded. No tears, just pride. They walked out together. Every eye followed them. Every camera clicked. Blake didn't move. His world had cracked wide open, and for the first time he looked small, powerless, exposed. Zuri didn't have to say anything. The truth had already done it for her. The hallway was quiet as Zuri walked, beside her dad. Chaos had melted into whispers. No more phones out, no more stares. Just silence thick enough to feel. He wasn't hiding her face anymore. He walked straight, chin high, eyes forward. They reached the front entrance, and just as they were about to step outside, a voice called out behind them. Zuri, wait. It was Blake. His voice wasn't cocky anymore. It trembled like a kid who finally saw the storm coming. For him, Ben stopped. Zuri looked up at her dad. He gave her a nod. This was her moment now. She turned around. Blake was alone. No crowd. No teammates. No laughter behind him. Just one boy standing in the wreckage of his own cruelty. He swallowed. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know he was your dad. Zuri stared at him. Would it have mattered? Blake hesitated. I didn't mean for it to go that far. She took a breath. You called me names, pushed me, filmed me. You made people laugh at me. Then you acted like it was just a joke. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Zuri stepped closer. You don't get to hide behind I didn't know, because you did know what you were doing. You just didn't care. Blake's face was red now. He looked down. I thought you were just acting better than everyone. Zuri blinked. No, I was just trying to be me, and I never needed to be better than anyone. I just didn't want to be smaller. Vin stood back, silent, watching her take the space she had always been denied. You could have asked who I was, she said, but you decided what I was instead. Blake didn't look up. Zuri's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I don't forgive you, not because I hate you, but because you haven't even forgiven yourself yet. When you learn how to do that, maybe you'll be ready to listen. Until then, we're done. She turned back to her dad. Vin gave a proud nod, then looked at Blake. He didn't say anything cruel. Just one line. Calm, deep, honest. The way you treated her says more about you than it ever did about her. They walked out the front doors into the sunlight. As they stepped into the parking lot, a small group of students stood waiting. Not for Blake, for Zuri. Her friend Maya rushed forward, breathless. The truth about racism in America is that it rarely walks in wearing a hood. It wears a smile, a school uniform, a whistle around its neck. Sometimes it sounds like silence when someone should have spoken. Other times, it looks like laughter when someone's being humiliated. It doesn't always shout. Often, it whispers. In rules, in looks, in who gets the benefit of the doubt and who doesn't. Zuri didn't walk into that school trying to prove anything. She just wanted to exist, to learn, to eat her lunch in peace. But for some people, her skin was louder than her voice. Her confidence was mistaken for arrogance. Her quiet strength threatened those who never had to fight for their place. And that's the problem. In America, too many people are judged not by what they do, but by how they look. Their worth is measured before they even speak. It took her father, walking through that school, famous, loud, undeniable, for the truth to finally be heard. But it shouldn't take a celebrity. It shouldn't take cameras or headlines. It shouldn't take proof of greatness for someone to be treated with basic dignity. Because respect isn't something you earn with a name, it's something you deserve with your humanity. Blake didn't see Zuri as a threat because of what she did. He saw her as a threat because she refused to shrink, because she didn't flinch, because even surrounded by people laughing at her, she kept her pride tucked safely inside. That's the kind of strength America often overlooks, especially when it's wrapped in black skin. Too many kids like Zuri walk into schools, jobs, neighborhoods, and are told without words, "Prove you belong here." But Zuri didn't need to prove anything. They needed to fix the way they saw her. Systemic racism isn't always about slurs or laws. Sometimes it's about who gets believed first, who gets punished hardest, who gets heard last. Sometimes it's about who gets called angry for standing up, and who gets called brave for staying silent. Zuri's story reminds us that the fight isn't just about being seen, it's about being seen the right way, with eyes that aren't clouded by fear, with hearts that aren't poisoned by stereotypes, with systems that aren't built to break you before you even begin. And when that moment came, when the world saw Zuri not as a victim, but as a survivor, not as a target, but as a mirror, they were forced to ask themselves one hard question. What if I've been looking at people the wrong way my whole life? Because greatness doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it wears braids. Sometimes it carries a lunch tray. Sometimes it just wants to be left alone, to breathe without explaining. You can't see a person's story in their skin, only in their strength. And respect? That's not a favor. That's a right. Never a request. Zuri didn't win because her dad was famous. She won because she never let hate make her small, because she didn't need revenge. She had truth, and truth has a way of making even the loudest lies choke in silence. That's the lesson. That's the power. That's America. When we stop judging and start seeing.